Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. We are live.
Is that the new intro?
I think so. I change it up every week.
I see that. What's going on, JT?
What's up, pal?
Not much, man. Not much. We got an update on those 19 in a row.
Can't wait to hear it.
What's up, Shawnee?
What's up, buddy?
Whoever had the low number. I don't know if anybody had. We're not done. So the 19 in a row went through next Tuesday. And those of you that don't know what we're talking about, last live stream 2 Thursdays ago, I mentioned that Friday I started 19 in a row charters. I got Friday in, I got Saturday in, I got Sunday in. Looking great. Monday, 4 super nice people. Super nice. Brian, Julie, Hal, and Brenda. I think Hal and Brenda are the names. Brian and Julie booked me. We get out. We are almost up to Montauk, and no chance. Zero chance of fishing. Even the north side, the bay, a rolling mess. Just impossible. We turned around. We came back in. And we had a string of cancellations from there. So I've gotten 6 in so far. Today was canceled. Tomorrow's canceled. Saturday's canceled. Stiff east wind each day, impossible. And then looks like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we'll get those in. So if that happens, we'll have the final update on the net, because I know there's some bucktails involved, and whoever guessed right.
That's right.
If it goes according to plan and I get the last 3 days in, which it's looking like I might based on the weather forecast, the final number will be 9 of the 19. All weather related, incidentally. None. Actually, I shouldn't say all weather related.
Well, it's tough this time of year, too.
Yeah.
So
that's the story there.
Nice. We're building up a bunch of viewers. We're up to 45 already.
Wow.
If anybody has any questions you'd like answered during tonight's show, make sure you put it up in the chat. We will answer I think we pretty much answer all of them.
Yeah. Let's just let Greg Ziss know that this answer won't count. He would like to guess 9. And Frank was my scheduled client for today. One of the absolute gentlemen. Although Frank, we rescheduled for next week. So my 19 in a row, those empty dates I had, I've now filled with trips that got canceled. Frank, you have a message from Doc. He wants to know where his steak is.
Frank, I heard Doc was saying something about how he destroys you in pickleball.
Yeah.
So what he said?
That's what his fake medical degree brain would like him to think.
Well,
he has never beaten me in tennis or pickleball.
Let's hear what he has to say. Here he is.
That's not very nice.
Well, it's true. First of all, he's a terrible driver to begin with. Now you have him on a live stream while he's behind the wheel. He averages 12 accidents a week. I want you to know that, JT. I hope you pulled over for this and you're not actually driving.
Oh, oh boy. I see. I sent JT a text just a couple of minutes ago, but he didn't see it probably, to mention about your injury and your excuses about not playing, and then you're always crying about your injury.
Well, I legitimately did something to my shoulder. Doc and I actually played against Mike, who owns the 39 Nortec, and his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Mike plays tennis once a week. He played, and I played tennis when I was a kid. Out here in Long Island, we have tennis courts all over the place. But I hadn't played in a long time. Doc got me back into it. Doc's progressed too. Stamina's built up. So we went from Doc and I playing Mike by himself and getting destroyed. I think it was like 6-1, 6-0. To we played him and his brother-in-law last Sunday. We lost the first set 7-5. We won the second set 6-4. but I really did something bad to my shoulder on an overhand smash, and it's still killing me. It doesn't affect the fishing, but if I try to do that motion, just shooting pain here. So I got to take it easy for a few weeks and hope I didn't tear anything.
Yep.
Well, nice to have you on,
I know
Doc.
that's what everybody joined the live stream to hear.
Well, and here's
this is tennis. Yeah.
All right, let's see here. We've got some questions. Let's answer some of these before they build up too much. How do you like the new trolling motor?
The new trolling motor is absolutely amazing. Members of the chat, my channel, will see I did a 100-hour review. We did have our first issue with the trolling motor, but it's not the trolling motor. I was out yesterday or 2 days ago on a charter, my last charter before all this wind came in. And again, a wonderful family, dad, wife, and 2 sons. And we're a couple drifts in, and the trolling motor just dies while it's in position. We were using it to help with the drift. And of course, I don't have the manual with me. And this one is the self-deploy, but it was the battery. It wasn't the motor. We don't know what happened because being that I was canceled today, I spent an hour and 40 minutes in this 20 to 30 mile an hour east wind in the bay today, facing the wind, and 1 hour and 40 minutes of hard run time, and it depleted only 82% of the battery. These new lithium batteries do have internal systems where if something is detected wrong, it will shut it down. I'm presuming that's what happened. I almost rather have discovered that the battery was dead. But that's the only issue so far. It gets used every single trip. I know some of the members, hey, there's Barry Barth. How the heck are you, buddy? Barry won the Billies by the Bay tournament, and I discovered he's my neighbor here in Long Island.
What's up, Barry?
You can see my attention span is quite limited here.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, it's amazing. And I thanks to my buddy Todd Mann, who really showed me how to use the Hummingbird to set precise drifts on it. The last few trips since I've been armed with that knowledge, it's even better. It's just a phenomenal tool, and really has saved my back this year. As much as I loved the Tarova, I had it 5 years, relatively trouble-free. The pulling it up and dropping it when it weighs as much as it does, it gets you after a trip. It tires you out. This is literally just pushing a button on the remote, deploys it, push the button the other way, brings it up, and it's a game changer. And forget for Blackfish, forget for everything else. It saved my season this year on the Fluke. We've been able. I don't think on any trip this year any client has had to go above 4 ounces, even on days when we're fishing with 20 mile an hour winds, because we just put that thing down and we stay vertical.
Amazing. We've got another question here from Bakes that maybe all 3 of us can chime in on. You want to read it out loud, John?
Yeah, sure. Where are all the Fluke gentlemen? I've only had two decent trips, both in the Sound. Montauk and Block have been for me. Do I just suck? What are we seeing? Love your channels. I can go first on this one.
Yeah, go ahead. You go first, and then Doc will go.
Yeah, no, it's not just you. I haven't even tried the South Side in a while. We have other spots. Luckily, not on the South Side where we've caught decent sized fish. Maybe not the volumes we would see if the South Side was on or Block was on. But the big theory, again, hearing this from multiple people, is this upswell. The constant south winds have resulted in really cold under, water temps at the bottom. Don't forget what your sonar reads, that it's 68 degrees, 70 degrees, whatever. That bottom temperature is 20 to 25 degrees colder. We're seeing ling close to the beach off Montauk, which is insane. We used to call a spot we fished south of Cartwright the ling spot because we would hit ling starting there in 120, 125 feet. To be getting them in 60 feet, a couple miles off the beach is unheard of. And not just 1 or 2, but you can't get through them. I'm also seeing, first time ever, where we have that fluke bite that's normally good for an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, and then it shuts down for an hour and a half. Then it picks up for an hour and a half. That window now is
really small.
I'm not kidding. It's just you got to get them fast. You got to short drift earlier. And I think that colder water is making them lethargic, and we're seeing skinny fish too. It's
very skinny.
That we've seen a gradual decline over the last 7-8 years. Again, we attribute that to the draggers. I think we're all in agreement on that. But specifically this year, the how it just fell off the precipice here, I attribute that to that upswell in the cold temperatures. Doc, go ahead.
Yeah. It's the least amount of trips I have made in years to Block and Montauk. And to tell you the truth, I've had better days in the Sound this year, and why waste the gas? I kind of think that everything is on a delay. I kind of think that September is going to be the best fluking month for some reason. Because everything is just backwards this year. One thing is, Buoy 5, where we fish a lot in the spring, it's been holding even though they're shorts, it's been holding fish all season. That's why I think things are just, a little backwards right now. And I think September is going to really come on strong.
I think those fluke, when they're trying to migrate out to deeper spots and hitting that cold water, it's like a brick wall to them.
It is I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And actually, James Flynn just posted up on here. He said, "Do you think you should fish shallower?" I've been fishing a lot, and Monday we were fishing in 35 feet of water again and catching a bunch of fish. So, but it's funny because, Halk, you had one of your best days out in 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That same day that I had a charter trip, we caught all of our fish in that 70 to 75 foot range. And then we have a day like Monday, this past Monday, where we couldn't get bit in 85, 75 feet of water. We moved into 35 and 45, and that's where all the fish were. It's very strange.
Well, I think those deeper waters too, even, in the bays where we fish, JT, the non-ocean stuff we do, it's still deep water, and that water is still cold down there.
The current.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And the currents are, like, let's say where we usually fish, that current's coming in from the ocean, and that's bringing in cooler water. And I think that's why it's not producing as much as it usually does, and that makes sense about the shallow water, because that water stays warmer and gets heated more easily than the deeper water.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot more fish lately in that 75 to 85 foot range where we never caught them before in years past, this time of year anyway. And also a lot of the bait, if you've noticed, especially like the mackerel, there's been balls of, sand eels that have been higher in the water column. Everything seems to be up towards the surface still.
I've never we had a day by Roanoke by Buoy 5. Doc, I don't know if that was with you or
it was because we were
the bait.
Yes,
as far as your eyes could see, there were sand eels right on top of the water
on the surface. Yeah. It's just strange, very strange.
We're seeing a lot of sharks too. I don't know what that means. Where you and I fish a lot, JT. I had a thresher take on one of my charters, a sea bass, and jump out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And then on my charter Tuesday, Robin, the mom on the trip, says, "Is that a shark?" And sure enough, a monster thresher.
We had that fish on, by the way.
40 feet. Yeah, that might be the fish because you had just texted me that, and we saw the fish.
Yeah.
Just circling the boat. Just a giant. You just saw the fin and the big tail, and it was big.
It was big. I think it ate a sea bass or a small fluke that my buddy Chris had on. All of a sudden, he's like, "Oh my God, JT, I got something huge on here," and it didn't move. All of a sudden, it started going out to the side, and then in less than a second, that thing swam about 60 feet all the way to the front of the boat. Like that.
Fast.
Fast is unbelievable. So, yeah. No, that...
Yeah, we had one eat a fluke. Remember Halk on the... it was in Montauk.
We caught it.
And we caught it.
Sea bass, Doc. It ate Ted, your cousin Ted.
Yes.
Was bringing up a sea bass.
It ate your cousin?
Yeah. Believe me, much like in Seinfeld, his cousin once fell in flour and butter, and Doc almost ate him. So
here's another question here.
That was a Newman joke when Kramer gets. Anyway,
here's another question. Read that out loud, Hal.
Yeah, with colder bottom temps, I found color of gulp makes a difference and slower presentation. Sometimes with meat, if that's what they want. That day has made the difference this year, at least in New Jersey. Thanks, Nick. Longtime follower of the channel, by the way. Based on pics I see of him online on Facebook, great fisherman. I got to tell you guys, whatever color we've put on this year, I don't see one color outproducing another. I was bothering somebody about nuclear chicken on a recent charter, and they dropped with it, and they got a fish, a nice keeper. When I was fishing with Tyler, they were using on the Simple Life. Tyler and Brian, his mate, were using chartreuse.
I was going to say chartreuse this year, I've noticed, has been producing more fish. I don't know.
Any color I see being used is working equally as good. My opinion. I get that in years past, it seems like one color works over another, but I don't know.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as far as bait goes, look, we all used bait for years. I'm not going to poo-poo bait, but I have stripped sea robins. We've had fluke belly on some trips. I don't see any difference between that and the gulp. But Nick, I'm not discounting your theory. It's just, and come to think of it, I wish it were working as well. I won't even take better, as well, because quite frankly, the bait is cheaper than the gulp. The gulp, if you think about it, is $2 a piece for the 6-inch gulps, or more, right? Because now a lot of places have them for $8.99. You can still typically find somewhere $7.99, but 4 pieces, that's $2 a piece. It's ridiculous if you think about it.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as the color. I don't know. I've used all colors this year, and I've caught fish on all the colors.
What time did your shift at the library end, Doc?
My what?
Your shift at the library?
If you guys
can you take your glasses off and put them towards your phone for a second so everybody could see what I'm talking about?
We can zoom those right in.
Look at that. Those are librarian glasses.
Is that yellowing from just being old and worn, or is that the way
they're green? No, they're green. They're teal. They're teal. Yeah, it's not showing up on the screen, but they're teal.
Let's do a real quick around the horn. Top 3 gulp colors that you think. If you had to pick 3, go ahead, Hal. You go first. Top 3 this year.
Pink shine, orange, and blue fuse.
Okay, go ahead, Doc.
I've been using Fire Tiger a lot, and blue fuse and white.
Mine are pink shine, salmon, and white. I can't get a good glow bite going.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's weird.
Although
they're not, maybe it has to do with the fact that they're not that deep.
I don't know if Kirk is listening, the guy who got the big fish on my boat this year. I think he was using orange.
He was.
Now
I saw the picture because actually I commented on it. He had a chartreuse tsunami glass minnow skirted jig as a teaser with a looked like a Fire Tiger gulp.
Oh, it might have been Fire Tiger.
Yeah. And actually, that teaser for some reason I think I've caught all of my keepers on this year, which is weird.
Tsunami glass minnow.
Yeah. And I really don't like that thing because it twists the crap out of your line.
Yeah.
But the chartreuse teaser with a pink shine gulp has been really good. So, if anybody has any more questions or anything like that, make sure you put them in the chat, and we'll definitely answer it. Here's a comment. Skinner in 12 feet of water.
Yeah, that's in Shinnecock Bay. And look, I had a video out a couple of weeks ago where we were fishing in Morich's Bay. First time I ever did that, and it was fantastic. And I actually got to fish with Roger from oh God, I always get the channel name wrong. Fishing and Cooking. What's the channel? Cooking and Fishing.
Cooking and Fishing.
Pretty sure that's the channel name. So number one, super nice guy, humble, quiet, fantastic boat company. And we experimented with his really light approach in very, very deep water. We also tried in Peconic Bay in some of our local spots where we've caught fish very shallow. We caught Fluke. They were all about this size. They were like 6 inches. I mean, like the smallest fluke you've ever seen. Which leads, and Peconic Bay is a very deep bay. It's very deep. There's spots where it's approaching 100 feet. And I'm wondering if that also is suffering the same upswell, because we had a terrible year this year in the bay. And I'm wondering if that's suffering the same type of bottom temperature, being a lot colder than the top. And maybe that's why it's not as productive as Shinnecock is this year and as Morich's is this year, because it's really just an extension of the Block Island Sound, which feeds into Gardner's Bay, which feeds into Peconic Bay. It's really just one big water system, and we call it Peconic Bay just because of land demarcations, but it's really part of that larger body of water.
Got another question here, if you want to read it.
Yeah, is this year's bait presentation smaller than previous years? Seems the smaller bait presentation is better than the larger. Thanks, Robert. Not for me. We've like I said, we've been lucky, right? We've had decent trips, not necessarily numbers, but decent size fish. It's all been on the standard 6-inch gulls. Doc?
Yeah, I basically use the smaller baits in the springtime. Right? Because we're using the lighter tackle. We're fishing 15 feet of water, so we're going with lighter tackle and lighter smaller bait. But now
I meant with the stuff we're doing in deeper water. Yep.
Right. Yep.
What about you, JT?
No, same thing. I mean, every so often I'll switch, to like a mullet, a 4 or 5 inch mullet instead of a 6-inch gulp on the teaser, but mainly just sticking with all the 6-inch gulp stuff. Even the 8s. Caught 2 fish this year. Decent fish on the 8s.
Wow.
I would like to catch some of those tinker mackerel and put those down, because I think they would work really well.
I do too.
They're the perfect size for a fluke.
Yeah, this leads us into the next question we have here.
Yeah, spearing has been outperforming for us by a large margin in Barnegat Bay, a complete change from a few years ago. Thanks, Thomas. And then Thomas follows it up right underneath. So much so I wonder if the gulp formula has changed. I don't think the gulp formula has changed.
They wouldn't mess with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's changed, but I don't know. I'll be honest, I've not used spearing all year, but based on what you just wrote, Thomas, it's not the worst idea. The problem where we fish, I don't know, Thomas, how it is in Barnegat. We have so many interference fish, so many. That spearing is not lasting 1 second past the sea robins and the sea bass. At least with the gulp, if you're savvy enough, if you're a good enough fluke fisherman, you can clearly tell which bites are, non-fluke bites, the rapid fire porgy type bites, which could be a sea bass, a sea robin, a porgy, or that hard thump, or just that weight on that it sucks it in as you're jigging. You don't even feel it. You just feel the weight. I don't think where we fish, the spearing will ever get to that fluke.
Especially this year, especially the spot that we share. In years past, we never caught a sea robin. I used to tell people about that.
Correct.
Every so often, the only kind of fish that you'd catch other than a fluke would be a keeper size sea bass, and that was really about it. And now it's a lot of sea robins, a lot of small sea bass, and I think
a lot of porgies too.
Oh my God, a lot of porgies, tons of porgies. So here's kind of a follow up to that, and I don't think it's out of the question. ahead, John.
Yeah, lots of reasons being put forth why the fishing has been different hard. Is other not possible that we are simply dealing with a diminished population of fish? Look at the decline of conics. Agree 100%, Jesse. That's I agree with you. That is, I've seen, and we've talked about this, I think, on almost every podcast or every live stream we've done. When I first started fishing Montauk almost 25 years ago, with bait, we would catch. And then as we evolved to gulp, it was a slam dunk. It was an outlier if you went to Montauk and didn't have a really good day. A limit, if you only had a limit, you would consider that a slow day many times. It was not unusual for us. I remember the first time Rick pulled up to us when we were fishing with Skinner Dock. This was back in 2017. He was using bait. We were using gulp. And he was using his old broomstick rods. And he was with Cliff, and they had 2 fish on the boat. And they're like, how many fish do you guys have? And we were like, oh, we have a double limit. He's like, get out of here. No. And we're like, yeah. And then he invited all of us to fish on his boat the following week. And that's how Skinner met Rick for fluke fishing. That was the norm. And every year since, it's declined. And to Jesse's point, those of you that fish Peconic Bay, Duffy's on, Sean Duffmeister's on. It's horrific what's happened. The Peconic Bay area used to be the mecca of fluke fishing in Long Island in May, and often in April too. Late April, I used to start catching when I'd be blue fishing. They were just so abundant, and it's almost impossible to get more than a handful the last few years on any trip.
And it's not like the squid in the spring are not there, because they are, and that's why we thought the fluke would be heavy in the bay early on in the season. So it must be a decline in fish.
Well, I don't want to keep repeating the same things over and over, but we talked about these offshore draggers in the winter. They found their home in the continental shelf. The boats from North Carolina, Virginia, that down south, they're not subject to regulations apparently on what they can keep, and they're just coming up here every winter and decimating those big spawners.
I think we've talked about it year after year, and I think it's coming to pass now. So let's see, we got another question here. Would you mind discussing your favorite fluke rods and reels? Go ahead, Halk. I'll let you start.
Yeah. So obviously I'm affiliated with VRC rods. I designed that rod. I love it. But I also think the Skinner rod is a great rod. My rod is a lot more expensive than all these rods. So, and the reason for that, it's made in America using an American blank. But I don't think you can go wrong with the Skinner rod. And I got to be honest with you, I still love the Jigging World Nexus heavy with 4 inches topped off. That action to me is wonderful too.
Such a great rod.
And really, any rod, as long as you put the right action on it, whether if it's got a soft tip, you just do a moderate up and down to get that bait moving off the bottom. If it's got a stiff tip, you can jig faster and get that thing, shaking like an injured bait fish. In the hands of a skilled fisherman, it doesn't matter what rod you're using, and that's the truth. You could be using a tuna stick there, as long as you know how to modulate that tip, you'll be fine.
And it's what you're comfortable with and what you have confidence in.
Right.
Yeah. And I think we still pretty much all use the Quantum Accurist reels, right?
Yeah, I also use a lot of the Energy reel, which
Energy,
is
that's what I meant. Energy.
It's a beefed up Accurist.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. I have no affiliation with this guy. I don't think I've ever met him. I certainly don't get a kickback or anything, but I know I've given his name to a lot of people. Gentlemen, you can find him on Facebook. He's in all the Fluke pages. Anthony Chinney. He actually sells all these reels, and he will send them to you with a power handle and the braided line of your choice for like $135, whether it's an Energy or an Accurist. It's a really good deal in my opinion. So if anybody doesn't want to have to spool it and put a power handle on and buy everything separate, reach out to this guy. He gets you a shipping label receipt right away. And I've probably bought 15 reels from him over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I
definitely.
also think it's a good idea too to have a spinning rod. I've been using a spinning rod more and more. Just a 7 foot, medium heavy, almost like a freshwater bass rod, just to have as a backup to throw something lighter.
Yeah, I bring a couple of spinners. I just bought a Phoenix, which I'm very happy with, and I use the Carbon Shield rod with my other spinner. I'm very happy with both.
I like the
Tell them why
Carbon
you
Shield.
use that Carbon Shield, though.
Excuse me?
Tell them why you use that Carbon Shield.
Why? I don't know why.
Spinner threatened you if you didn't.
No, that's not
Spinner
true.
did not threaten him.
I have actually, the green ones, the original Carbon Shields.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one I have. Yeah.
I found 3 more of those brand new at a tackle store. Yeah, I like those. Yeah. Let's see what else we.
I even use it for bassing as well.
Sure, it's a great rod. It's not too expensive.
So Troy asks, if you look at Troy Fairweather's question, wonder how a small spoon would work on the teaser. So like I said, I fished with Roger from Cooking and Fishing the other day, and I actually had ordered before we even agreed to a trip. They got delivered right after our trip, but he had some with him. Some spinners that look like spoons that you screw into the gulp. If your gulp gets chomped, you can screw those in. So I was doing that with the teaser on a trip I was on, a charter I was on Monday, where I only had one client and I was doing a decent amount of fishing. I picked up a nice fish. It didn't hit the teaser, but I noticed when I had that in, I was getting a lot of what felt like fluke hits, and I think it does.
Were they hitting the blade?
So I've with Roger, we lost a few blades. They were definitely hitting it.
Sure. Yeah, I think I know he's been using a willow leaf, which is the long, slender blade. But something
he's
like
got a couple different blades. He's got smaller ones and longer ones.
Colorado's going to have more vibration. That's more of a rounded blade. And Indiana's kind of in between them. So I'm curious. I mean, that's I'm excited to get him on here so we can talk about that because he has a lot.
We tried to get him on today, and we had to settle for Doc, unfortunately.
This is I wanted to experiment with. So instead of putting a bucktail on the bottom, you have your teaser. Instead of putting the bucktail, I wanted to try using a smaller. Oh man, now I'm losing it. What do we fast jig with when you're doing bluefish?
Diamond
jig?
Yes, a smaller type diamond jig, but using the swaying motion that I like. Putting a gulp on it. Because it'll, give you some shine down there. I'm just curious how that would work,
Your favorite theory of mine that I actually think has merit is your bunker chunking idea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Doc always said if we find a school of decent sized fluke, and JT, I know you know this, when you're into a little area where you short drift, where you're catching it seems like better than average size fluke. Doc's idea is to like spot lock or anchor in that area and drop down a bunker chunk as if you were striper fishing. And I have to tell you, going back a few years, we had an almost 13 pounder on my boat. A guy named Mike caught it, 12.75, when the bunker were getting destroyed by the bluefish around us. And I'm positive that the big fluke were just sitting under that commotion, waiting for those chunks to fall down and scavenging.
Well, the reason I also want to do it is because 2 separate people have told me that they were bunker chunking for bass near Orient Point, and they were bringing up doormats.
Yes. 2
separate people told me this.
I had another friend tell me that this week. They were out striper fishing at night. With a bunker, and they caught it a 12 or 13 pound fluke over near Hatchett's Reef.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's another thing I'd like to do one day is I'd like to go fluke fishing at night. because I think they're really aggressive at night.
The biggest fluke I've ever personally seen caught was a 16-pounder caught on the Viking back in like 2004, 2005. I was on a night striper trip. We were fishing eels off the point, middle of the night. And this is when the season closed August 31. It was whenever we had like that 21-inch mandate and an August 31 closure in New York. And 16-pound fluke caught on a live eel at night while striper fishing. And it had to be released. And it was they included it in the fishermen too. But I was on that boat and saw that fish. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that. They're just as aggressive as a bluefish. And I think they live in a lot of the same waters. You know, we were over at the Gut last, I want to say it was Thursday. And we got that kind of like really slack tide where it was like, you know, really just still, slowly moving. And I looked at the graph and there's a ton of sea bass. And I said to my buddy Joe, I'm like, I know there's big fluke that live here and nobody bothers them.
Yes, I agree.
Doormats at the race.
JT, I have spots on my GPS at the race marked sea bass because we've caught big sea bass there at Slack. Same thing. Yeah. I promise you drift through there, all that rocky structure.
Absolutely. I know there's big fluke there. There's big ones too. Big fluke.
I was thinking that like 2 weeks ago when I was going through the Gut. I mean, there has to be big fluke there. Has to be.
Yep. Just sitting off the backside of that thing, just waiting for just look. Think about all the slaughter that goes on when the bluefish and the stripers are just heavily feeding during the rip. You know, they're just sitting back there. There's big holes for them to just hang out in, let the current fly over their heads. And you can tell, even when there's a big feed there and you look down in the water and there's just scales, it looks like the water is just, you know, glittering.
Yes.
You know, there's chunks of everything floating down. I have a feeling there's a lot of places that we don't fluke fish that have megas.
Yes, I agree totally.
Yeah. And, you know, when you go back and you look at like that old video of Charles Nappy that I have posted up on Next Drift, he talks all about fishing. He didn't fish areas like we fish. He would be looking for the really strong rips. That was his favorite thing to do.
Skinner says that all the time.
Rips.
When he's on my boat, he goes, I like this. Look, a rip line developed here. We got to fish this spot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had a trip earlier in the year with Todd and Sweeney and Todd's wife, and we did the rip line in Mattatuck, and we had 6 keepers, and one of them was almost 7 pounds, you know? So, yeah, I think they're aggressive. They're predators.
Is this the trip where your reel came off?
I got to go now. I'll take care, guys. Yes, it is. that was a funny video. I must.
I don't understand why you keep your drag so loose. I would suggest keeping it tighter while you're fishing.
JT, you know what him and Sweeney do to me, right?
What, with the drag?
They loosen my drag all the time. Okay. And they're so annoying.
The best is when I'm talking to him while loosening his drag, and he has no idea.
Oh my goodness! Here's a question.
10.
Yeah, 10.
What line test do you use? 10.
10-pound braid.
10.
Yeah, 10-pound braid. What about? Let's talk about leaders real quick. I get a lot of questions about that because I use a lot of different size leaders. I'll use 20. I'll use 30. What do you
20.
guys?
The only thing I don't like about 20 is it sort of curls up. It doesn't hold its integrity. Yeah. So I I use 30.
Mm-hmm.
Ocean fishing 30. And I use Seagar Fluoro. I like Suffix 832 with the braid. I've had great luck with that. I can't tell you how many times you hook the bottom, you have 30 fluoro on, that 10-pound braid on, and when you break off at the fluoro and not the braid, even though the braid is only 10-pound.
Braid straight to fluoro or braid to
straight? I used to do I used to use the small barrels, but honestly, I've gotten so fast at tying that knot. it's just easier not having to deal with, especially at my age, where this is not a lie. I have this right here by my desk here. You could see it. It's a magnifying glass so that I can read my mail.
Yeah.
It's just easier to buy it for me rather than trying to thread that little barrel swivel.
Yeah, I agree.
One of my last keeper Fluke was loaded with crabs. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I've hardly found anything in their bellies this year. Hardly anything. It's really? Almost maybe 5% of the Fluke I filleted this year have had anything in their bellies.
So, Doc, Halkias is really good at catching the starving ones.
Yeah, but it is interesting. I mean, we know that the cold water, inhibits them from feeding, right? So could it be related? I don't know.
Maybe they're more lethargic. The crabs are easier to scoop up than a swimming bait fish.
Well, they're not as fast. They're not as fast.
The sea bass are always loaded with crabs when I fillet those. So
the little ones, right? The little tiny,
the little crabs.
Yeah, the little crabs.
Yes.
Although we had a nice 21-inch sea bass the other day that spit up the head of a peanut bunker.
Which, again, that was on your video.
And JT that our base spot loaded with peanut bunker this year. I don't know if you've noticed them jumping all over the place.
All over the place.
We even had a bluefish on the bottom a couple trips ago, but that just leads credence because the sea bass didn't chop off the head. I guarantee you that fish was chopped by a small blue. The head drifted to the bottom, and the sea bass scavenged it.
Yeah.
I was sea bassing a couple of weeks ago, and one of them spit out a baby porgy, but a sizable baby porgy. I was really surprised that it ate a fish that big.
Gordon,
a sea bass.
I'm going to cut you off, Jesse Gordon. There are no Fluke to be had at night anywhere near Orient. Fake news. Jesse, I have a feeling you're being sarcastic. Jesse, for those of you that don't know, is an excellent surf fisherman. He goes to some of those places that I don't have the cojones to try to fish at night by surf.
Right.
So my presumption is that might be a little bit of sarcasm, but he will text me if he's not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else we got here. This is I can't see the whole thing. I only see half of it. John, you want to read it?
Yeah, sure. On the gulp, since they're kind of like a sponge, I like to squeeze the gulp in a towel to get water out, then recharge it. My two biggest flukes have been on the herring chunk. Interesting.
Wow.
Sardine.
No. So I think you talking about the gulp color.
Yeah, or maybe
Yep. So I have a bunch of sardine. There's something interesting. Mantis shrimp. We had a Fluke burp up a mantis shrimp, or part of a mantis shrimp.
Yep. So I've seen
July, August, early August time is when the mantis shrimp are usually spawning. So that's why what is it? New penny is a really good color, and
you know what? I want to change my answer on the 3 gulp colors. Let's take out orange and put new penny in.
New penny's been sick.
Yeah. So I'm going to go pink shine, blue fuse, and new penny.
Yeah. I purposely didn't mention new penny.
Oh.
No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Big Fluke seemed to love porgy too. So yeah. So let's
Skinner won that contest. The Fluke tournament last year, Doc. The Doc had a 24-inch Fluke. Skinner had a 24-inch Fluke. Doc's Fluke weighed a hair over 5 pounds, and Skinner's Fluke weighed a hair over 6 pounds. And when Skinner filleted his Fluke, it had a porgy and a little weak fish in it too.
Here's another one. If you tried to use a jerk bait, haven't used a jerk bait, but I have experimented with a big deep diving crankbait, a bomber and a 6XD from Strike King, and I've been catching fish on it. So I got some footage last week and a little bit more on Monday of the rig. So
yeah,
I've been using it in 65, 75, 85 feet.
Frank, I have tried his technique. It's great. The problem with it where we fish is you catch a sea bass right away, invariably. You really need to be in a shallower spot, I think, where there's less interference fish. But if you look at that video I did on the Rosie, Ernesto was using his technique to a T, and he had 4 keepers on a day. So Ernesto and I had 6 keepers between us. The Rosie posted the next day on Facebook that, we had wind against tide, which we did. Not the greatest day. They had 15 keepers. They had like 50 people on the boat, and he and I, with that really light technique, a quarter-ounce jig, we had 6 of those. And Ernesto, to his credit, using Roger's technique, had 4.
Fellas, I gotta go because I gotta pick up the wife. But it was a pleasure.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Doc. That was a nice surprise. I really had no idea he was joining.
Yeah, get your
JT.
Get your arm healed. All right, I got to get you back on the court. All right.
Yeah, we need to see an episode of this. We need to you got to bring the camera with you. At least get a little clip of you guys doing this pickleball.
Oh, that would be interesting.
By the way,
yes.
When you pick up the wife, can you also pick up the thing you owe me for like a month now?
I owe him a peanut butter pie. I lost a fishing bag. So I told him I'd get him a pie instead, and I haven't been able.
I think he's actually bought the pie from me on several occasions already, but it's never made it to my house.
Hey, what's that on your shirt, Doc? It looks like peanut butter.
All right, guys. Take care, huh?
Take care.
Yeah.
All right.
That was good to have him on. Cool. So let's kind of recap what obviously our plans are pretty shot for the weekend except for Sunday. So what are your plans for Sunday?
Sunday, still big swells in the ocean, so I'll probably stay, in the Bay Area, the deeper parts. Then Monday, Tuesday, I have same client 2 days in a row, first time fishing with them. Tomorrow I have exciting stuff. I don't know if Andy's listening, but I put out a video today. Andy bought my old CV. He's selling it. So if anybody wants the old CV, it's perfect. Just too much boat for him. And I think he's still getting rid of the Parker. I think he's emotionally attached to that boat. So maybe he's a little less hesitant to pull the trigger. But he told me he is. And we are going to a dealer in Long Island and building out a brand new Blue Water 25T. So a smaller boat that he can handle easier by himself. And he has a dock slip with his new home. And that boat will fit perfectly in there where the CV won't. And the Parker truthfully doesn't either, even though it's supposed to fit in there, but it sticks out so much. So I did a factory tour of Blue Water. Fantastic company, great owners. They care about their stuff. They build a great boat. They've been around forever. I think the second oldest continuously family-owned boat company. Not the same family, but it's not corporate owned. And I'm excited to spec it out with him tomorrow. So that's my plan tomorrow.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure yet. I think I'm actually going to go check out some spots in the Sound if it's not too nasty.
East wind, man. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think they watch the channel, but I had guys in a 23 Sea Hunt pass me today when I was coming back in after testing out my trolling motor for an hour and a half. And I got as far as the opening of Gardner's Bay, and it was a steep chop, like 2 to 3s. And they told me they were going to the gut. And I said, hey, I'll tell you what to do, but don't do it. Don't do it in a bay boat.
Wish. Wow. Yeah. I don't know. It's really going to be weather dependent, and I'm hoping that it doesn't totally kill the fishing for the next week. So we'll see what happens. But let me see if anybody else has any questions. Here we go. East wind sucked today.
Yeah,
but it did.
Yeah, and Robert, we're not talking about Sunday. Sunday though, there's going to be a residual. Let me just give you the forecast for Sunday. Southwest off Montauk. Bear with me. From what I recall, it looked like huge seas on Sunday.
Huge. It was supposed to be 11 feet at one point.
Well, so tomorrow they're 9 feet at night. By Sunday, they're subsiding in the morning to 5 feet, then 4.5 feet, then 3.8. So it's getting better, but it's still it's just not comfortable when it's 4.5 feet, even at 8 seconds. It's not comfortable.
Yeah, Sunday is going to be start off in the morning as a northwest wind, then switch to a west wind around 8 o'clock at about 5 miles an hour, between 5 and 10, and then around 11 o'clock it's just going to be blowing 15 straight out of the west, and then up to 20.
And Duff is right. There's going to be long residual effects too. Anyone who's dealt with these storms before knows that fishing usually shuts down for a couple of days. And what we always see when there's a heavy blow like what's coming in on Saturday, that water is dirty for a couple of days. Like all that mud and sand off the beach,
nasty.
Like when you turn Montauk Point after a hurricane, the water right at the point is brown. Like it looks like churning mud out there.
Yoo-hoo. Yep. Looks like yoo-hoo. Yeah. So everybody be safe. Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, don't go to the gut with a 20 to 30 mile an hour.
Don't go to the race. Just skip it. It's just the wind's going to be bad. We don't want any heroes. Just wait a few days and it'll be better. So
JT, I guess you and I will catch up again Sunday afternoon for the members chat, the members Patreon chat.
Yep. So Sunday, if you're not already a member of the Jigging Jerks YouTube channel or Next Drift Patreon channel, make sure you join one of the two, and you can get on there on Sunday for our other live stream, which is members only. So, yeah, I mean, that's about all I've got. We had a good show tonight. It was nice having Doc on here. We had a lot of great questions. And so we will be back. The next Thursday night Fish Talk will be in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today.
You should do another contest, like how many charters in a row, how many days before I get my pie.
Oh, that's going to be, I'm not willing to do that one. It's going to be a long time.
Yeah.
Although he might show up with it now because it was in.
He's been publicly shamed as a pie welcher.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you all. Had a great time as always.
Care.
Yep. Take
Good
care.
Time. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.